The two people that put the coup in couple. Jeannie Thomas, fascist in the streets, and Supreme Court Justice whisperer in the sheets. This week, Jeannie was interviewed by the January 6th Commission. Let's check it out.
Jeannie Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, told the January 6th committee that she still believes the 2020 presidential election was stolen. Those remarks came during a 4-hour interview yesterday with a House panel.
Damn! Clarence Thomas likes those girls thick. No, I mean thick in the brain, thick up here. I mean, this lady's never found a cult she doesn't fall for, right? So why should MAGA be any different?
Jeannie Thomas began her career in conservative politics in the early 1980s, was working for a Republican congressman when she became involved in, well, a cult known as LifeSpring. In 1987, the Washington Post reported extensively about LifeSpring, which trained members in a series of expensive courses and cited experts, quote, who believe LifeSpring is a dangerous company that uses psychological tricks to manipulate minds.
You know, Jeannie out there LARPing on January 6th, a QAnon detective, would be fine if it wasn't for one little detail. Clarence Thomas was the lone dissenting vote in Trump's attempt to have the Supreme Court not require he turn over documents to the January 6th committee. I mean, think about that, just for a second. Clarence Thomas is more compromised than a pair of Trump's Depends, like an hour after breakfast. So why in God's name would a society trust a court whose party that nominated them has only won the popular vote one time in the last 30 years? I mean, we've all sat back and watched this Federalist Party darling bend over backwards faster than Melania trying to get a green card. And what for? To protect the very person that nominated her? A one-term president that never won the popular vote and was caught stealing nuclear secrets? I mean, that sentence right there, that is your deep state. That is your capital corruption. That is your conspiracy. Judge Cannon is exactly what her name indicates. A cannon of bullshit. Out of her league and just shooting out propaganda to protect Trump. And all this without even an afterthought of the institution she's destroying. And on top of all this, and an issue Republicans want you to desperately stop thinking about before the midterms come up, 1/3 of the women in this country have already lost autonomy over their own bodies. The Supreme Court, power drunk, have stripped away a right to health care that 2/3 of the people in this country support. And if you thought they were going to stop there, I got terrible news for you. Next up, they're axing free and fair elections. The Alabama case they're getting ready to take up will allow red states to gerrymander, no matter how ridiculous it is, to suppress the black vote. And also part of this law, even if Democrats are able to overcome this insane gerrymandering, the state legislature can simply ignore the will of the people, no matter how much the majority of the vote is, and send their electors for the Republicans. And if all this gets you fired up, if it makes you want to complain, makes you want to hit the streets, well, Justice Alito has something for that too. Alito, another Republican snowflake, and I guess international comedian.
I had the honor this term of writing, I think, the only Supreme Court decision in the history of that institution that has been lambasted by a whole string of foreign leaders. One of these was former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, but he paid the price. What really wounded me was when the Duke of Sussex addressed the United Nations and seemed to compare the decision whose name may not be spoken with the Russian attack on Ukraine.
So while he travels to Rome to use his humor, I use humor very lightly when talking about Republicans because, as we know, they call Greg Gutfeld a comedian.
For proof, over at MSNBC, let's see what Brian Williams is up to right now.
Good evening, I'm Brian Williams, and I am on Mars. Yes, I jumped on a chopper and now I'm on Mars.
Alito wants us all to just sit back and shut up and support this institution that was built by presidents that couldn't win a majority of the vote in this country. While he strips rights away, Healthcare rights. Healthcare rights supported by 2/3 of people in this country. Civil rights. He wants us to sit back because he doesn't want the integrity. The integrity of the court questioned? Are you kidding me? Well, little man, you probably should have stayed in Rome. Because I'll tell you what, Mussolini would appreciate much more of what you're saying than this American right here. So let me go ahead and cross that line for you. The Supreme Court has no integrity. To go a step further, at best, it's a joke. It's a joke of an institution. And at worst, it's a Federalist Society deep state lever that can be used to supersede the Republic, to supersede the people's voices. Lock me up, Alito. Just please, don't torture me with any more of this comedy. Chad the Chud.
I've been here for a year now. I built a castle here made of mastodon carcasses and marshmallows.
Some things never change.